Welcome back to the Accountability Hour, the podcast where we tackle double standards, self-improvement, and the messy realities of relationships. This is Lynn Watchhorn. So I saw another one of those meme quote things that's just so frustrating. So the woman says, "Why are you as a man listening to male dating coaches? Are you trying to date other men? No. Then listen to women." And then a man responds, "Very naive take. Women will tell you what they think and they want, not what they actually want. Listening to women will lead to failure." And then another woman responds, "Good Lord, do you hear yourself? Listening to women will lead to failure. Why is it that so many men refuse to believe that women might actually know what we want?" And for all the men listening, you probably saw the issue with that pretty quick. And I know it's a little funny or hypocritical. I am a woman that gives dating advice, but I do feel like I can adequately speak on this topic in general. Now, of course, a disclaimer, I'm not saying that women should not give men dating advice in general. I think that they definitely can. But when I think about it, when you ask individual women for what they want and then you listen to it, that doesn't always work. Now, I'm not saying your wife that you've been with for 10 years, you shouldn't listen to her. Definitely listen. If she has a preference, a like, or a want, yes. But when it comes to approaching and dating women, sometimes women are not the best people to ask. And just like that man commented, there's a big difference between a woman saying she wants something and then her actually rewarding it. Because if women truly followed what they say they want, the dating landscape would look completely different. We often hear women saying, "Oh, I just want a nice man that will buy me dinner and pull my chair and hold the door open for me." And then she meets 20 men who do that very thing and she doesn't like any of them. But then you see her in a relationship with a guy that treated her like crap. And yes, this isn't all women, and there's a lot of women who are mature and can see through that and actually do somewhat follow through with what they say they want. But it's still, there's like a disconnection there. And also what I've noticed is, as someone who has been married for over a year now, a lot of the things I thought I wanted in a relationship and the type of man I was looking for, my husband ended up being very different from what I was expecting. And this is not me dissing him or putting him down, but it just goes to show how you think, you picture who your perfect person is in your head, and then you end up with someone completely different. And I actually dated a person or some people that actually did match up with what I said I was looking for almost to a T, and the relationship didn't work out. We weren't very compatible. So that just goes to show that people don't always know exactly what they want. And that's okay. I think that's something we should openly admit and be honest about. Also, I hate it, but women are often the choosers and not the pursuers. Wanting something and having to earn it are two different experiences. An attraction isn't built by he did XYZ. It's built by response, not explanation. Also, sometimes we experience things, but we have our feelings, and we know what our feelings are, but we don't know what actually caused the feelings. So I think women sometimes have good experiences, and they're like, okay, I like it when a man does blank, it made me feel like blank, but the reality is it was something completely different that caused those feelings, like the overall chemistry of the conversation, or just his overall vibe and energy. That's why I noticed a lot of men's dating coaches that give out dating advice for men specifically, they heavily encourage having confidence and leading, because they know that that actually does work on women, whereas a woman might experience a guy like that and be like, oh yeah, it was definitely because he opened the door for me, but it may have not had anything to do with opening the door. It was his overall vibe and energy. And a lot of people say what sounds right, not what consistently works. And a lot of dating advice is often based on how something should feel and not how it actually lands. Impact always beats intention. I mean, if it were reversed, every man that wants to have a relationship would be happily taken right now, because so many men out there have good intentions, but unfortunately, one or two things that happen during the date or how he carries himself actually caused the biggest impact in a negative light. And I see a lot of women talk about how they want a man that wants to actually get married, and then they meet all these men who are ready for marriage, but it doesn't work. He's following all the advice she would have given him, and it's still not enough. Women don't date men the way men date women. There's different risks and incentives for both men and women, and it's different, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different. And this is why I think a lot of women actually should start doing the approaching, because women don't really get punished for expressing interest, whereas men do. And that has to change their behavior. Men can be filmed. Men can be posted online. If a woman went up to a man and asked him out, a lot of men, if they're not interested, are just going to nicely decline. I've actually seen videos of this, a woman like walking around approaching these men, and a lot of them are like, well, I have a girlfriend, I have a wife, or no thank you. They're usually very kind, whereas you see a lot of women where they'll shame a man for how he approached because he was socially awkward or something. So when women approach men, they're really risking a little bit of discomfort, whereas men are risking a hell of a lot more. Also, women are clueless about how many times a man realistically has to approach to eventually get a girlfriend. Or heck, even just that first date. So it's easy to tell a man, oh, just be confident. Well, how are you confident when you were just rejected 20 times in the last year? And it was a nice little rejection, like, oh, sorry, I'm not interested, or I have a boyfriend, I'm married, whatever. It's rude, like, ew, why would you approach me, or whatever. And she's posted on her social medias, and a lot of women think, oh, well, that man doesn't see it. Well, sometimes he does, especially because a lot of those videos go viral. So a lot of men see those things. And even if it's not about him specifically, he sees that video and he's like, oh, I've done that before. I guess that's how women take it, is they think, ew, I'm gross, or something like that. And a lot of dating advice focuses purely on communication, not how the timing, the tone, or the restraint matter more than the words. Women don't really experience dating as a numbers game as well. It's just they choose between the available people, and she decides what she wants. Men, it is a numbers game. If a man asks out one woman a year, he's probably going to be single, unless he gets very lucky. If a man asks out 50 women in a year, he's probably going to get a few dates. Also, if any of you guys watched one of my recent videos, I was at the park walking and a woman was freaking out, trying to shorten this, but basically she's just like freaking out because we were alone at the park, and it's a big park, and usually it's pretty crowded, but it was like Wednesday or something like that, like around noon. So it was perfectly safe. There was light outside. There's literally an elementary school next to the park. So it's a very safe park. And she was freaking out because she saw a man. Oh no. And I ended up seeing that same man, and he just had his headphones on and he was walking his dog. Yes, he didn't approach her or anything, but it just goes to show that kind of the first instinct for a lot of women is to see men in a negative light. They automatically feel unsafe just because a man is present. He's maybe at the coffee shop with you, sitting kind of nearby on his computer, and she might feel unsafe. So men are constantly trying to navigate that as well. Because women are always good at showing that they're uncomfortable. From this man's eyes, that woman that was panicking, you just saw her walking fast around the park. She looked like she was just, power walking. There was no indication until she approached me that she was like scared and worried about her safety. Also, what I've noticed is a lot of women encourages a man to be very pleasing or romantic, or go all out with planning. Reality is based on some women's behavior that can be seen as desperate or overwhelming, especially so early on. And a lot of this advice rarely keeps in mind how fast attraction can go away. At 1 minute she's happy and excited about him, and he spends a lot of time or money, and then the attraction's gone. So there really is no guarantee that if he does XYZ, that you actually, as a woman, would be attracted to him. And then also, a lot of women don't see how often these same men will actually follow that advice and fail. They only see the men that actually succeed. Also, the advice is ignoring the fact that women often test men, and they're more likely to fail if they're unaware of these tests, and they just blindly follow the advice that women are giving them. And also, this all stems back of women not being all the same. I always hear, men need to listen to women on dating advice, but every woman has different preferences. I have seen so many women giving out dating advice, like on social media, where I'm sitting there like, if a man or my husband used that kind of thing on me, I wouldn't like it, because we're all different. What works for one woman's not going to work for the other woman. So for them to paint it as, oh, all women want this, no woman wants a man to be like, oh, I don't know where we should go out to eat. That's actually not the case. I know of a lot of women who actually enjoy deciding. And for a lot of men, they need to learn pattern recognition, not just your preferences. Because that kind of determines how he can treat you and how you're going to ultimately show up in the relationship, and if it's worth his time. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might benefit from it. And if you'd like more content from me, I have a YouTube and a Patreon.